shiver, but not cold enough.
Hi friends, how are you this evening? This is a really bad accent, so I'm going to stop it now, okay? How are we all? I am here with Vlogmas Day 11, fingers crossed hopefully. I think this will be scheduled on time. I know it is generally late for a wrap up, but we all know what I'm like when books going to be wrap ups. This is probably early, in all fairness. All in all, I read 18 books in the month of November, which, given the fact that I was having a pretty slumpy month, that works out quite well. I didn't DNF any books last month, which I'm happy about, but I read a total of 6,987 pages. I listened to 97 hours on audio, and that's probably less than I actually read on audio, because I tend to like round down because I mix between speeds. So normally I will put it on, I will look at what it is on the fastest speed, but sometimes I do slow it down, so it's probably more than that if I'm honest. So format wise, I only read one ebook and the rest were either physical or a mix of physical and audio. I will let you know which was which when I pick them up. So we're back to normal. The makeup look that I do is going to be based on the aesthetics. Is it? She says as she doesn't even know what palette to use. It's going to be based on the aesthetic of my favourite book of the month. I don't have an exact yellow that I like. Out of all the palettes that I've got, I don't have one with a nice pale yellow that I like. And if you ask Becca, you'll know that I do have a lot of makeup palettes to choose from. It's an inspired by look anyway, so it's not exact. We're just going to go with it. We're going to go with it. First up in the rankings, we're going to go worst to best. And unfortunately, Court was on my worst. And I'm not going to keep this. This is probably already going to be at Becca's by the time I film my end of year wrap up. I'm probably not going to do, I don't know. I'm still debating on whether or not I want to do most disappointing. We'll see. We'll see. So, Court. You probably heard Liv talk about the Crave series quite a lot. It's Liv's fault that I got onto the Crave series, and I absolutely adored the first 3 books. And I was ready to finally delve into book 4. I was so ready. I was so ready. And unfortunately it just didn't stand up to the hype that it was, and the wait that we had to go through to bloody get the book was ridiculous. So yeah, I was highly disappointed with this one. I gave it a 3 stars because it wasn't bad. This yellow is not going down, and it's really annoying me. I moved yet, and now I can't get you back to where I want you to be. Anyway, the characters were all still really good. I really enjoyed getting to know some of the characters in more depth, and the relationship building and that kind of thing. But Jesus Christ, the big bad battle didn't end up being the big bad battle we all needed. The battle that came before the big bad was bad, was good. But it just wasn't what I needed. I was expecting from Tracy Wolf. That was book number 1, because I didn't really enjoy it the way that I wanted to. I'm passing my hardbacks on to Becca, because she's only been able to get the paperbacks of these so far, and they are stopping the production, or have stopped the production of the paperbacks. Hopefully she will enjoy them on her shelves more than I will, and it does free up more space for books that I really enjoyed. I will say I still stand by the fact that the first 3 books are great, and other people still really love book 4. I still really enjoy book 4. It is just each to their own. I did discuss it with Liv, And to be honest, her opinions were quite similar to mine. Next one, we have Discovery of Witches. I know. This was a 4-star though, so it wasn't abysmal, it wasn't terrible, it just wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I was expecting. I'm really actually quite disappointed overall with this book. I enjoyed the character. I can't remember a main character's name now. I enjoyed Diana. Diana was a great character. I didn't really like hers and Matthew's relationship. Becca did say that the Matthew in the series is a lot more likeable than the Matthew in the books, which I can fully get behind. I 100% agree with. It's really quite hard to like Matthew in the books at times, and if you've read it you know why. I'm not going to go into too much detail as to why. It's just some of his behaviours, and if you've read it you understand what I'm saying. The girls that read it said that they understand where I'm coming from, but just to keep on going with the series, because I'm willing, you know, he gets better, and the books do get better. So I'm just going to hold out for that and hope that he does get better, because I have the full series and I really wanted to like it. So I'm really hoping that he turns out to be a good character that I can actually get behind. I know not all main characters can be nice and sweet and lovable, but not the best one for me and my friends. So it was a 4-star, but it was still really enjoyable. The next 4-star, which was also slightly disappointing, I realised, I was thinking, yeah, I've had a good month, but I haven't had the best month. So, Discord of Gods. This was still a 4 stars. I still really enjoyed this. However, length, disappointing. I needed more book for it being the last book, but I also needed less. Less but more but less. There is a full live show of me and Chelsea discussing our thoughts and feelings on this book, why we rated it, how we rated it, but I just feel like, yes, certain things were wrapped up well, it just left me wanting more, which you don't really want from the last book in the series, do you? You can understand why things were not wrapped up nice and neatly in a little bow, all together, do you know what I mean? Because that's not the kind of series that it was. You expected it to be a bit different, and I get that, but I don't know what I was expecting, but there were things that I really needed more clarification on, and things that I could have done without being in the book as much. But overall, it's still a 5-star series for me, because 3 out of the 5 books got 5 stars, and the other 2 got 4. So it's still a really good read, and I would recommend that you pick the series up. For me, it was just a little bit disappointing, that's all. It wasn't anything overly dramatic. It wasn't a court situation where I'm like unhauling the whole series. I will reread this series as well. Obviously not now, because I have many things that I'm currently trying to make my way through. But at some point, I do want to reread the series and tab things, because no doubt, the complexity of this series, I will have missed some things. And there will be some things where I'm like, that should have been answered. And it likely possibly might have been, but I might have missed it. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those series that, upon a reread, you will understand even more. And maybe once I've reread it and got into a bit more depth and tabbed it and whatnot, I might give it different ratings. You never know. I might give it the same ratings. You know, it is what it is. But we will find out, won't we? The next 4 stars we have is The Forest of Vanity Valor by A.P. Beswick. Me, Jem and Smash read this for the podcast. I will leave the podcast linked somewhere around the video. It was so good. I will say once again though, I needed more book. The author has since mentioned that these are all shorter stories, shorter retellings, but the characters do eventually like converge and connect and meet up and cross over and that. So I love the fact that that's going to happen. So these are not long books to begin with, but there's like a story and then like a short story and then another story and then a short story. And one of the short stories is a Santa Father Christmas retelling, the dark retelling, and I just love the covers on this. So there's different colour schemes. This is Robin Hood, and then the one about Santa or Father Christmas is red, and then you've got Sea of Sorrow, I think that's what it's called, which is blue. You know, there's different colours for different retellings, which I absolutely love, and I'm just really, really excited to dive into the rest of these books. And the author actually listened to the podcast and offered to send myself, Smash, and Jem a copy of the Father Christmas short story. It's a Frost of... I don't want to get the name wrong, so I'll put the picture up here. That will explain what the actual book is, because I am shit. We are all really excited. One of them is like an Arthurian dark retelling as well, and there's a character that's been brought in this book, sort of led us to believe that that was coming anyway, and you'll know what I mean if you've read it. But I would recommend this. And I will also say, I seem to recently have a thing for not really wholesome, likeable main characters. I know I had a thing for morally grey characters anyway, but I seem to be leaning more towards books that have morally grey characters in, and preferring those to the ones with like hero complexes and stuff. I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with me. Send help. This look is not going to be one of my most bold looks. And you'll see by the book as to why that's the case. But I did want the colours to show up a little bit better than what they're showing up as. But we move. And my battery's dying, so I'm going to change the battery and I'll be back. Once again, if you're in a different location, I apologise, okay? I am a shit at camera angles. But the next one that I read in the month of November was The Main Chronicles. This was for the By the Angel Along. This got 5 stars. Did it? I don't know. I think it did. There were a couple of stories that I wasn't really fussed about. I still really enjoyed a lot of the stories. It was very, very interesting seeing more of Magnus Bay's life outside of what he does just with the Shadowhunters and Alex and stuff. So it was fun. I have never really been one for short stories, but I really enjoyed it. Speaking of short stories, there is another short story that I read. I know, check me out. This was 5 Silver Rings by Zach Argyle. I read this just at the back end of the month in order to complete the Once Upon a Readathon and get it down for my Western Reads. Oh my god. This story was probably literally like 50 pages long. I don't even know if it's that. It was such a short story with such a massive, impactful message. I mean, it's Zach Argyle, and I've read The Voice of War by him, so I knew that the writing would be good anyway. I never doubted the writing style would be exactly what I wanted, but I didn't expect the short story to give you so much information in such a short space of time. I don't know if it's still available, but I got the short story sent to me free when I signed up to his newsletter. So if you are interested in Zach Argyle and his work, and you are not sure about getting one of his longer books, The Voice of War, as far as I'm aware, is still on Kindle Unlimited, if you have that. But if you want to try out his work before you go out and get a novel from him, then check out 5 Silver Rings. You'll get a feel for his writing style. It's a very short snippet, but if you do enjoy that, then I can guarantee you will enjoy Voice of War. I still need to pick up a physical copy of Voice of War. Also, totally off topic, Voice of War, if you get it, get the audiobook as well. The likelihood that I will recommend the audiobooks for every book that I love, it's a high chance, but, you know, it's me, what do you expect? I'm audiobook queen. Audible just take all my money all the time, especially seeing as physical reading has been difficult recently. The next one I read was The Unbound, I think, was book 2 in this duology. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars once again. There were mixed reviews on this. We read this for Readalongs, and I will leave the Readalongs I live in the cards or in the description. But myself, Jem, Tori and Saipan discussed this at length. The pros and cons of the book. This was one of Schwab's earlier books. And just like any author, you can tell her storytelling and character development has developed and grown over the years. However, for me, this was still 5 stars. That is too thick. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
Ignore me, I'm having a moment. I don't really have much more to say to this because I gave my full thoughts, feelings and ponderances on the live show. The next 5 stars is Blue Exorcist Volume 2. Are we surprised? Are we surprised? We are not surprised. I just loved following this. I have seen the anime. I have been told by Jem that after, I can't remember what volume it is, but after the first series, it does change from the way that the story goes in the books. This follows Rin Okamura, who finds out he is the son of Satan! But he doesn't want to be the son of Satan that takes over hell. He decides that he wants to get rid of Satan. He wants to become an exorcist and defeat Satan, which I just think is the best concept. Bloody brilliant, I tell you. The next one is Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This is the second book in the Poppy War series. So much happened. And once again, this was a very, very quick read. It was a quicker read than I expected it to be. Even after reading the Poppy War, I thought, because we're going to get more into it, it was going to be difficult. And I thought it was going to get more complex. And, you know, other stuff did happen. For those of you who don't know, it's not a very light and bright and breezy series. So at times I had to sort of like put the book down and be like, ooh, maybe I need to come back to that another day. But when I sat and read it, I got through it really quickly. It was brilliant. I would highly, highly recommend. Next one is Demon in the Wood by Lee Bardugo. This was the quickest graphic novel read ever. The artwork in this is amazing. And this is by Lee Bardugo and Danny Pendergast is the artist of this. So the Darkling follows the Darkling before he became who he is in the Shadow and Bone series. It takes you back to when he was a teenager and what happened with him and his mother. Not saying I condone his behaviour, but, you know, the way that people treat you. This is kind of what annoys me about life in general, is that people treat people a certain way and then expect them not to react. And then when they do, it's their fault. Which, again, I don't agree with what the Darkling does. And yes, this is fantasy. But, you know, it's the same thing. Show kindness to get kindness back, do you know what I mean? That was good. It was so good. And then another graphic novel was Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu. I'm sorry if I butchered that. This was so cute, so queer. This follows a young lad that, look at him, Bitty is so cute, who was a figure skating champion and then goes to college and decides to play hockey. A lot of my friends are like, you want to pick up book 2 straight away? You will. I mean, I didn't doubt them that I would, but I didn't realise how much of an urge I would have picking up as soon as I finished. I really didn't want to wait, and I kicked myself for not picking up book 2 when I was in Forbidden Planet. I could have literally just devoured both of them within a couple of hours. The next 3 books are different from each other, but still so good in their own right. And the look that I've done is based on the one that impacted me the most out of these 5 stars. So, the first one is Twice Shy by Sarah Hogle. Second book that I read by her. Only critique, it was still 5 stars, But only critique was I needed more book. I needed more time with Wesley. I needed more time with Mabel. And there were certain things that were brought up in the storyline that I was like, oh, well, I would have liked that interaction to have been an interaction we saw on the page, not an interaction that was discussed in passing. So, I know contemporaries tend to be shorter anyway, and they're not these epic, long questing, 700-page books, but I could have done with a little bit more of that. But other than that, it was amazing. Like, hands down. Cannot wait to read Just Like Magic. I'm reading that with Andy this week. I'm so excited. Next up, we have All the Feels by Olivia Dade. I read spoiler alert. How many? I don't know how many weeks ago now. Months? I don't know when I read it. We follow Alex. I mean, I thought spoiler alert was good, but I did not know how good this was going to be. I loved this. So we follow Alex, who is the best friend of Marcus, who we meet in spoiler alert. Marcus and April are lovely. They are really good characters, but Lauren and Alex, they're just next level. Next level. Alex reminds me so much of me. I'm not gonna lie. He has ADHD. I don't have ADHD. Not diagnosed anyway. But this makes me question whether I have it or not. His behaviours are just very, very me. See, Alex is such a relatable character. He's on the same show that Marcus is, and he has a reputation for being the one that goes out and makes silly mistakes, and that needs to be reined in. So he gets a minder to keep him out of trouble, and that's Lauren. And Lauren is she's great. I will warn you that there is a lot of discussion, like in Olivia Dade's other book, although I can't remember other people's opinions being this harsh about April, if I'm being quite honest. Obviously, the women in Olivia's books that I've read so far are plus size. Lauren isn't deemed, like, societally pretty, so there are certain things that are said to and about her that are very uncomfortable to read and listen to. So I would highly recommend that if that kind of thing affects you in any way, shape or form, that you maybe not read the book. But if things like that don't bother you, well, not don't bother you because that's the wrong phrasing to use. If things like that are not a massive sort of trigger point for you, then I think you'll still enjoy the book. It does talk a lot about plus size women and how they get treated in society in general, and through the eyes of Lauren and through the eyes of other people when they meet her. You do see through the eyes of Lauren, like the way people treat her, and how she just accepts it as part of a given daily life and whatnot. And I'm not gonna lie, it really, really did annoy me. But it's gonna, because it's people being mean to people with absolutely no fucking need. But it's part of life and it's part of the story. So, yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm just gonna finish bronzing my face so I don't look like a fucking ghost. I'm gonna put my hair down and I will be right back with my favourite book of the month. Ignore the hair. I'm just about to go and dye it again, and it's a mess, but here is the look and I'm really happy with it. It's a lot paler than I wanted it to be, but it is a pastel look after all, so you know, you get what you get. But my favourite book of the month was I'm Glad My Mum Died, which sounds weird saying that out loud now, but as we all know, I'm not a reader of non-fiction. I like to just escape into fantasy worlds and contemporary worlds of romance when I read. But something was drawing me to this. I was, just as iCarly was becoming a thing, I was kind of going into my later teens. So I only watched some of iCarly and some of Sam and Cat. I knew who Jeanette McCurdy was as a person, as an actress, and when this first came up as a book that she was releasing, I was like, Jesus Christ, that title, like, what the hell? I then saw her on the red table with J. Pickett Smith and Willow and J. Pickett Smith's mum, and talking about some of the passages from the book and her experience with her mum and why she went on this journey. And I was already sort of like gripped by it then. I cried at the first part of the book because it was a prologue, and there was something that she said that she thought would evoke a certain reaction, and that to me at that particular moment in time, I don't know if it's because I've also struggled with weight issues and stuff, the fact that there was this sort of thing that she said that she thought would make a difference, and she thought that was the only thing that she could say that would make a difference. I was just like, eh. The rest of the book, I was just too, I don't know what words to use. I can't say I enjoyed it. Enjoy is the wrong word, because you're following Jeanette as she's growing up. You see it from a child's perspective when she's 6. You see it from her teenage perspective when she's growing up. You see how people are treating her, how she accepts certain ways of being treated as a given, and you scream internally and externally at some points for her to just be like, break from this cycle. Like, you really want her to notice something that's wrong about a certain relationship and a certain way someone's treating her, and the way that she just sabotages herself. And it shows the constant growth that a person needs to go through to try and recover from things like this. It's just amazing. I'm not sure I could ever reread this. I'm keeping it because it's a great book. Using so many positive words about a book that's about somebody's actual shitty life that she went through sounds really wrong, but it is an inspiring read. She's an inspiring human being, and the fact that she's got through this, she's able to tell her story and hopefully make a difference and educate other people on things that happened. Just shine a light on certain things. It's just so good. I can't stop saying how good it is, but it's great. I do have some more non-fiction that I want to pick up. I want to pick up Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton. I want to pick up Hope by Tom Parker. I want to pick up David Grohl book. I want to pick up the Trevor Noah autobiography about when he fled during the apartheid. I continue to forget the title. Something about pain. I want to read that. You might be getting a few non-fiction thrown in to my reading journeys, but that's it. Hopefully next month my makeup will turn out better. Thank you very much for joining. I appreciate you all very much. If you do like my videos, please like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Leave a black heart if you want to let me know you are here but you don't have anything to say. And if you have any book recommendations that you would like me to read next year, then please leave them in the Google form down below, and I will do my best to get to them as and when I can. Yay. Thank you. Bye.
Cold enough to make you shiver, but not cold enough